Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're over on the YouTube account and we're going to be looking at the Temporal Rift. Now, big shout out to the AFK guys. They did put out a Temporal Rift guide, but if you're like me, we have 37 days left of this monster left. And going through here, we have just really grinded this out very fast. You can see we're already at level 280. We have another 4 floors before we can complete this out to level 300, which is exactly your goal every single time you come in here. Because of course, this game mode gives just an insane amount not only of heroes, but of loot in general. Then, of course, we do have the award selection, which looking in here and looking at the heroes that we have within here, the Awakened version of Solus and Eugene are really the only two that are being used in here, but I would advise you getting out the time emblems and getting really the heroes in their own priority. So looking at maxing out these time emblems, once you do, and if you get to the point of maxing out those time emblems and buying them out, I would go in and get the cheapest Stargazer scrolls, which of course you can see these are 130, those are 200. We're gonna go ahead and pick these up and wait till we get the reset to buy whatever else we can in here, which it's almost bought out in its entirety. And doing this every time that we do this, because of course you wanna be able to get the rarest and the most expensive heroes within AFK Arena. So let's hop over, we'll take a look and we'll break down this guide. All right guys, so here is the guide, the Temporal Rift guide. I think this was up a few days ago over on Reddit. Definitely want to share it here because I don't want you guys to miss it. If you miss the guides like this, especially from the AFK guides, they put out some very, very solid guides. Not a lot of visual content creators that are out there. But again, I want to get the exposure on this. I want to make sure that we see exactly what we have in here. So I'm going to zoom in quite a bit. You can see team number 1, the Awakened version of Belinda. Now you can notice that we have an original version of Aziz in here. We have Jerome, we have the Awakened version of Belinda, and we have Gavis and Lavatoon. Now one thing to note is when you look at Gavis, Gavis is kind of a mage, but he does play kind of a support role in here with the damage mitigation, allowing the Awakened version of Belinda just to supercharge damage, burning through everyone. And you can see there are a multitude of badges. In here we are using the Rock Lizard as a defensive beast, which we have in here. And then of course we have the axe right here. Now looking at the subs, this is very important when you start looking at this game mode because it is very, very imperative to the heroes that you have built. You can sub in a lot of different heroes, including a couple other Awakened ones. But when you look at Ivan, when you look at Palmer, when you look at the Awakened version of Leica, even looking at Rain, and looking at Guineas, a couple other heroes, you have to make sure that these heroes are not used in other formations. If you do kind of sub them in, you want to make sure that you don't overlap them because they can be used in multiple formations. Looking at team number 2, we have the Ulna Rem. This is one of the absolute most broken combinations that we've had, is when you have Ulna, when you have Rem, then you put badges behind him, you put buffs, you put everything that you get out of the Temporal Rift. This will supercharge your team in its entirety. And of course, if you don't have Ulna, Rem is really hard to run without Ulna. I know with the Awakened version of Leica, does make it a little bit easier because on entrance, it does shield the front heroes, but without Ulna, Rem is a little bit tough to run. Now, of course, Ulna is still a pretty good priority, still falls into a high utility within the tier list. And then, of course, looking down here, we have the Awakened version of Shimira. We have Naruko, which again, utility-wise, works incredibly well. Still one of my favorite heroes. Then, of course, we do have the Awakened version of Athalia and Silas. Silas has a bunch of subs down here, including Demia and Shuna, that you can actually put in places in here. Then, of course, you can see that we are running Talus Main in here as well as the armor. Now, Talus Main, of course, is going to provide some crowd control when it comes to your Graveborn heroes and when it comes to the Hypo heroes. So making sure that you're looking at the teams that you're fighting with in here, and then, of course, adjusting as you do need to. Team 3 gets into the Awakened version of Shimira, and you'll notice that Hildwyn is also in here. If you've been playing AFK Arena for a little while, Hildwyn has, again, very similar to Gavis, been kind of the support role, not the primary damage dealer, but still doing incredibly well within some other formations. And you'll also notice that we have 4 Graveborn heroes in here. So we actually have Braun, we have Lady Simona, and then we do have Ivan in here. The Ivan Awakened version of Shimira combination is one of the absolute most broken combinations that we see in AFK Arena. Then we have the Shroom Spooter. So your little spider right here, the Shroom Spooter actually hops in and taunts the enemies, meaning that you're not going to be taking a lot of damage as the team and the formation is here, but you are going to have a taunt. And then, of course, we do have the Blade on here. And then there are a lot of substitutions. Now, when you look at heroes like Braun, Substitution wise, you can put a lot of different heroes in here, even looking at Oden, looking at a lot of other ones. And a lot of players will not have him built out because, again, not a huge priority. But when you look at Ivan, when you look at Lady Simona, they are absolutely a huge priority to build. Then, of course, if you don't have the Awakened version of Shamira, they actually defaulted over here to the Awakened version of Matria based on the build with our Hypo heroes in here. So we got Kanisa and Rook, we have Olgath, and we have Frampton in here with Ivan. Again, a very, very strong team. Looking at Team 4, which is Luciberta? Luciberta, I think it is there. Lucius or Liberta and Lucilla. The combination of it, that's a pretty funny name. But as you can see, we have Lucia in here, we have Kanisa and Rook, we have Liberta in here, the Awakened version of Thane, or excuse me, the Awakened version of Baden, which is still pretty broken. When you look at a multitude of game modes, when you look at a ton of different places, the Awakened version of Baden is still being used in a ton of different places, which is very cool to see. And then we do have Demia in here, and we have the Owl, and well with the Meteor, or the Meteoric, I forget the name of the relic in there, the artifact, but definitely being used. Now, of course, looking at the combination of Lucilla and Liberta together, they are 2, as well as Demia. They are 3 of the top 4 heroes short of Lavatune to really focus when you're building out heroes from the Stargazer. They are really the big focus. Now, of course, you can see a lot of subs in here. Aethys is one of the incredibly strong tanks within this game. So being able to sub in if you do have an Aethys that is built out does work incredibly well. Now, of course, if you don't have Liberta, but Liberta is the #1 priority within AFK Arena, still seeing the most utility of any hero that we do have. But then, of course, we do have Oden. We have a bunch of Awakened heroes in here. Gwen even falls in here. We have Mulan in here and a couple other heroes as well. So let's move down back to number 5. So team number 5, the Summoners. This, again, if you look right here, talk about a team where you're going to have a lot of additions. We have Aethys in here. We have Naruko, which, of course, is going to have Nadia. We have the Awakened version of Solus, which is going to have the water sprites. And then, of course, we have Trishia in here with Villanelle. Works incredibly well with a specific badge. And, of course, looking at the Ice Crown. So this little pet will actually give you the ability to crowd control right off of the bat. So you'll have a lot of crowd control in here. And then, of course, with the pets, with everything in here, you can actually burn down very, very fast. Now, there's a multitude of subs in here, and there are a couple other cheaper versions in here, a budget version. This is actually the old version that we used to run, which, of course, was Mishka run with Ivan, and then we did have Scarlet, and, of course, looking in here with Nevi. Nevi is a hero that was super strong when it came to the ability to buff up summoned heroes, which is the reason why Nevi is still being run in here with Mishka. Works incredibly well. Note, use this team against the Swap Corruptor boss to avoid death. So this team itself will burn down the boss and will burn down the boss very fast. You have to pay attention again to what teams you're fighting and how you are fighting them in there. Now, of course, looking at the Temporal Rift big picture, Temporal Rift does require 5 teams when you get to a point. So making sure that you can build them out. Now, of course, looking at the bonus team, this is based on the Slumbering Seal. This, of course, is a stall team, which I don't see Flora in here. Flora and Taline are kind of the 2 big stall heroes. Thorin can work incredibly well. Taline can work incredibly well. Flora is another one, again, that can work super well in here because of the survivability aspect, but also the ability to reincarnate or come back alive with just letting the Slumbering Seal do an incredible amount of damage. Now he gets into the beacons. Now looking at Trade Enhancer. Trade Enhancer is the one that you want to focus on in its entirety. That is really the big part. Is Trade Enhancer is something that you're always going to max out in the entirety. That is primary number 1. So putting points into Lightning Duel or Noble Legacy will go ahead and give you some improvements to stability if you're pushing past floor 300, which I do not do at all. I don't do for the frames. I don't do any of that. And then, of course, if you have a specific build out or a faction, you can utilize these, but they do come at a very high cost. So looking at the Beckoning Place, if you're missing a hero, you can pick them up at the Beckoning Place. You can reset from floor 1 and then get a hero from the Beckoning Place again. So you can actually fill a slot within there to make it work out. And then of course, divine seals, if you're going past 300, there is a couple different divine seals that will do incredibly well, that work a lot better than other seals. So you might think with the auto battle, with the RNG factor, might not really make a big difference, but honestly, the divine seals do make a really big difference if you're picking out specific ones, especially when it comes to the legendary seals. It does make a big difference. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. The Temporal Rift Guide, I'm going to put a link down below so you do have your link to Reddit. That way you can check it out, you can bookmark it, and definitely follow the AFK guys. It is awesome to see the guides they're putting out. But again, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.